What's going on YouTube? It is your boy Culture Shark. We're back with another video. I'm here to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Indianapolis Colts. This week's matchup, tail of the tape, is going to be a phenomenal game. You got Mahomes going up against Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones. The Indianapolis Colts just coming off of a bye week. This should be an interesting game for them. This is a good test for them to come off the bye week just to see where they're at mentally and physically. Hopefully, we'll have a few players coming back from injury as reported. Um, but they're still trying to work their way to 100%. But with all of those things being said, with no DeForest Buckner still, this team is still playing good football. Jalen Jones has returned to the lineup. As we may have seen, he's been playing good football as a phenomenal before the bye week. We're going to need him big time in this game. But before all of that, I just want to give my thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts. But going into this week, how they played before the bye week, interesting. From the first 11 weeks, I think this team has exceeded expectations of what we thought they were going to be coming out of the offseason. With the whole carousel at the quarterback situation, the whole Anthony Richardson situation, naming Daniel Jones as their quarterback. Of course, I would be the one to say I was one of them when I was just I wasn't at ease with the situation of making him the quarterback. I wasn't so sure how he was going to perform. But like I gave him a chance. I didn't really just like ridicule him of things and situations. I gave him a chance to go out there and play football. And whatever it was, I was going to root for this team regardless. But I didn't expect him to be this good of a quarterback going into the situation. I thought he was going to be decent just because he was a pro and he already knows what to do. He had the right development time, the time frame, and just due to his performances and his recent locations, I think going into the Indianapolis Colts, the team that had a way better offense than where he formerly played at all of these other teams, better coaching staff as well. I thought he would fit in pretty easily. But I think he's the perfect quarterback for a guy like Shane Steichen in his offense. He's not the phenomenal. He doesn't have a phenomenal arm strength. He isn't the fastest quarterback. He isn't as mobile as Anthony Richardson. But he gets the job done. He reads the defenses. He gets the ball out pretty quickly when he needs to go. He learns from his mistakes. I know we've seen a few hiccups in the recent few weeks before the bye week. But he learned from those and adjusted, and he finds the way to win the game still, regardless. A lot of quarterbacks, when they get into this mental state, when they start to make mistakes, they just ball into a raisin and just unnaturally go to what they're used to being. And a guy like Daniel Jones, when he makes the mistake, he tries to learn to how to fix it and not to do it again. Of course, some of the mistakes he's made wasn't all of his fault. I think offensively, the offensive line has some few poor plays in pass pros. But honestly, like I said, and then a few of them was just untiming accidents. Like the tipped interceptions and things like that. You don't expect some of those. Those are out of your control. It's just natural sport, a natural sport thing. So, like I said, other than that, I think he plays solid football. In my opinion, he has one of the best performances at quarterback this year. I'm not going to rank him top five, probably not, but I would say he's definitely top 10 performing wise. He's definitely been overperforming of what we expected, and that's just great. Now, that's going to say a lot for the Colts going into the offseason of what they want to do with them, but it is what it is at the end of the day. But I think he definitely gives his credit. He definitely deserves credit for what he has done so far with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, where he's going to be at mentally going into this week against the Kansas City Chiefs, it doesn't get easier from here. This is going to be a tough stretch for the Colts. This definitely shows you where they're going to be at, and this is a huge test for them, definitely, because the Chiefs are trying to make a spot to secure in the playoffs, trying to turn around the season because it's been up and down. But the Colts are on the bright side of things. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. They only have 2 losses. And, with this offense is one of the best offenses in the league, it says a lot for this team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come in and play against this Kansas City team. All of that being said, leading that with the best running back in the game and the MVP runner-up, Jonathan Taylor, who's in the MVP conversation, I would say. That says a lot. How is he going to be coming out of this bye week? He's having a phenomenal season so far. Is that going to be a huge thing going up into the Kansas City Chiefs? Against the run, they're ranked ninth, 100 yards per game, and a guy like Jonathan Taylor who likes to go for at least almost 200 most of the time, that says a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offense looks going up against this Kansas City team. Jonathan Taylor, like I said, is having a phenomenal year. Tyler Warren is the missing piece. I think he's had a phenomenal season so far, a phenomenal rookie season. And the wide receiver core has just been all hands on deck. All those guys have been available. A lot of guys have stepped up to the plate. Even with the departure of A.D. Mitchell, this offense is still cooking with a lot of grease. They had a lot of weapons. So, like I said, when they got rid of them, they wasn't really losing anything because there's only one football, and there's a lot of talent on the offensive side that would love to see it. So, it just spread the wealth, and there's a lot of people. Next man up is the situation in Indianapolis, and a lot of those guys have stepped up to the plate and performed. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do coming out of this bye week, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs. Looking on the defensive side, I say the defensive side has had a rough patch. A lot of injuries, a lot of people are missing time, things of that nature. But with all of that being said, through all of the situations that they've been through, they still found a way to win. And that's the most important thing to take from it. This defense has definitely willed this offense out of a lot of games, and they definitely won a lot of games for this team, too. But Cam Bynum has had a phenomenal season so far. Zaire Franklin's had a good year so far. The addition of Jermaine Pratt, who still found his way on the weak side linebacker position. I think he's finally hitting his groove. Took a long time, but the cornerback room, like I said, has been, definitely give them a lot of credit for what they have done. Even though they lack depth, a lot of these guys stepped up to the plate and made a lot of big plays. But all the pieces are finally coming together. They're returning from injuries and things of that nature. Sauce Gardner's meshed in very well after the trade, and he looks like he's having himself a solid season. Him changing environments going into Indianapolis just played a huge role into what this team needs and what he needed as well. In a winning culture, winning environment, it just brings the best out of you. This team's competitive and they're going to scrap regardless of the situation. All of these guys has been playing phenomenal. When it comes to the pass rush, there's still a huge question mark of what they want to do, their identity. Trying to get there. They got a huge test this week. We can talk about the matchup now going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. With Patrick Mahomes over there on the opposite side, the biggest issue was pretty much getting home and bringing down the quarterback for this pass rush. And most of these situations in this year, you get a lot of quarterbacks that just make plays happen out of nowhere. And, they get the ability to run and make plays off the run. And one of those guys like Patrick Mahomes, he's famous for doing that. He's famous for making plays out of nothing. You're just running around, trying to get something open and just heaving the ball up and then finding something at the last second. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this pass rush goes up against Patrick Mahomes. Now, on the bright side, you would say this offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs have not looked great this year. So this could be a huge test for them to try to get home and get Patrick Mahomes down, especially being, back in Lucas Oil with that environment. They have a home field advantage. This team does find a way to turn it up a notch at home. They are undefeated, so it's going to be interesting to see what type of pressure they're going to bring against this Chiefs team. The offensive line, like I said, hasn't been great this year, protecting Mahomes. So it's going to be interesting. This is a huge test for this pass rush to prove that they can go out there and make something happen. They didn't make any moves on trade deadline, so they put a lot of trust and faith in these guys. So, like I said, this is a huge test for this team to go out there and make something happen. Despite all of that, this still is one of the best offenses in the NFL because of what they have and the coaching staff and what they have on the players on the offensive side. They still have a lot of weapons, a lot of speed, man, and a lot of speed. Speed kills. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts defensive side is going to match up against this team. And Lou Anarumo knows this team very well. So disguise wise, I'm pretty sure he's going to drop a good scheme to try to pretty much try to neutralize Patrick Mahomes for making those crazy plays. And, with the press coverage with Sauce Gardner being an addition, which is a huge plus for this defense because we need a guy like this on our side going up against this team in this stacked AFC. So it's going to be interesting to see how Sauce plays against this team. Jalen Jones is a guy I'm going to be looking for to make some noise, even Kenny Moore. But the biggest test is going to be this linebacker group. The linebacker group's going to have to step up, even the pass rush, I would say for sure. But the linebacker group, with a guy like Mahomes, you got to cover those spaces, man. It's going to be a huge test. I would be interested to see if Lou Anarumo try to take the linebackers off the field and have more DBs just due to the offensive firepower this Chiefs team have. Zaire might be more of a blitzer, if that was my opinion, to have more safety DB work. out there just due because the team that they're playing up against. Like I said, Lou Anarumo has been drawing up a great scheme all year, so anything he does doesn't surprise me. This team's been pretty much locked in most of the time, so I will be interested to see how they match up against this team. I know Lou Anarumo has something up his sleeve to drop this team to get them all aligned in with against this matchup. It's going to be a huge test, but it's going to be interesting to see how they match up for sure. But like I said, the Chiefs have one of the best offenses in the league, passing wise, rushing wise. They're maybe top 15. Um, Running wise, they do know how to run the ball, but I would definitely look at the pass game more than the run game. The Colts did pretty good on the run game, even though they don't have DeForest Buckner. I think they still been pretty solid. So it's going to be interesting to see with Adatume Adewale being available, that adds a little bit more speed on that D line. He's been having himself a phenomenal season, so that's going to be interesting. Going into this Colts offense, going up against this Chiefs defense, the Chiefs defense hasn't been great, even though they still have a very scary front. You cannot really sleep on this team. They can make something happen, especially knowing what's at stake here. Playoffs is on the line. They're going up against one of the best teams. They want to go out there and make their presence known. And I said this with the Steelers matchup. The Steelers know what's at stake. They went out there and pretty much hit us in the mouth. The Chiefs can do the same thing. But the Colts are at home. They do have an advantage, so they should be well rested off the bye week. So they should be ready, locked, and loaded. Hopefully, we can get the Colts offense that we're used to seeing. Like I said, with the Chiefs being pretty bad at the run defense, Jonathan Taylor has to be on your top of the to-do list. You have to scheme up something for Taylor to go up and pretty much just will this team to victory and put the offense back to what we're used to seeing with this high scoring offensive pace. They pretty much slowed down a little bit in the recent weeks. But they should definitely kick it up and notch and go back to what we're used to doing. When they're going up against this team that pretty much allows 100 yards a game rushing, going up against with a guy like Jonathan Taylor in your backfield, that has to be your identity. The pass rush gives up almost 200 yards per game. With the defense is not elite, but they perform well. So having a guy like Daniel Jones, who pretty much hits his layups when it's needed, and not really force things, besides heaving it up to Alec Pierce, I think this game should be a perfect pace for Daniel Jones to go out there and play Daniel Jones football. Shane Steichen, I'm pretty sure he's going to have some type of creative motive against this Chiefs team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Daniel Jones mentally prepares for the game. Is he focused? Is he locked in? And is he going to pretty much will us to victory? So that's going to be my offensive guys to watch. Is definitely Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones. How can they mesh against this Chiefs team and keep the winning things going? And how can they keep the atmosphere in Lucas Oil almost undefeated? This is a huge test going up against this Chiefs team. So Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor will be the guys I look for on the offensive side. And for defensive, I'm looking at Sauce Gardner and Zaire Franklin. Those guys got to be locked in this game. It's going to be very, very tough of a battle. But like I said, anything's possible. This team can definitely get it done. They've been playing good football all year, so I wouldn't count them out this game. They definitely have the advantage here. They just got to play with what's in front of them. And, every game right here on out is definitely have playoff feel to it. So you got to be locked in, man. And I'm going to be interested to see how they play against this team. Like I said, you know, they've been playing good football. They should be well rested coming out this bye week. So it should be interesting. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How do you feel about the Colts before the bye? And how do you feel about them going into this game against the Kansas City Chiefs? This should be an interesting one. You let me know your score predictions as well. And then we should be back. Maybe we should watch the games together on Sunday. So you'll just have to tune in on Twitter or the X app, what I would like to say, maybe YouTube as well, or even Twitch. You can look it up on Twitch as well. And check us out on the website. We drop articles on thebluestable.com. But yeah, we'll be back and give our reactions to the game after. But we are back in full motion. This is Culture Shock. And until after the game, you guys stay safe, enjoy your week, safe week, and have a safe weekend as well. Go Colts.